I don't normally try to use these YouTube videos as a platform to quote-unquote make a statement, but to be honest, I feel like this sort of idea would normally be pretty exciting, pretty hype, a lot of conversation going around about this type of player heading over to this type of team, but I don't know, I feel a little bit jaded. Like, to be honest, there are so many rumors popping up now that I'm sort of feeling a little bit bored, and I will feel like this until we see an actual trade. But nevertheless, this player is one of many defensemen that have been talked about on the trade market the past little while here, and I thought it would be probably just a fun idea to go out there and discuss him heading over to this team. Mostly because the absolutely bananas bonkers offense that could end up manifesting itself as a result. So, we're talking about Erik Karlsson, San Jose Sharks franchise defenseman, and recent, let's just say revived career. Because Karlsson, at 32 years old, has really come into his own this season as being one of the best defensemen we have seen in years. 73 points in 55 games played, 18 goals, 55 assists. He is on pace for 109 points this year. And, knock on wood, I personally hope he gets it. We haven't seen a defenseman in the NHL hit 100 points since Leach in the 90s, so Karlsson going out there 30 years later and potentially doing something like that too? Hey, sounds like a pretty good plan in my books. But of course, this is something that may or may not happen with the San Jose Sharks, the team he's currently on, and that he's signed to at an 11.5 AAV until the end of 2027. He is a pretty expensive guy. And because of the Sharks and their rebuild, their retool on the fly, you talk about guys like Timo Meier, you talk about guys like Karlsson that could be on the move sooner rather than later. There is a conversation for the Sharks to get a boatload of stuff for Karlsson in return. However, that is very circumstantial. It very much depends on the team that is acquiring Karlsson, because, sure, acquiring a player who can get 100 points from your blue line is pretty good, but acquiring a player at an 11.5 AAV on the wrong side of 30 is not so good. This is why we head over to Spectre's Hockey from yesterday. This is the February 14th edition of the piece. What we're doing is we're going over onto what Elliotte Friedman said. I assume this was on Sportsnet, the TV broadcast, and not really an article, because Spectre's usually goes out there and links the article if it is in an article. So because it just says Sportsnet here, I'm assuming that it's Friedman on the TV going out there and literally saying this word for word. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. Let's go over on what Chris Johnston said first, because he kind of introduces the topic on TSN. I believe this was Insider Trading, if not just a regular broadcast. Again, it's not linked here on Spectre. Spectre usually does a good job at doing that, so I'm going to assume TV broadcast here. Here's the latest on Erik Karlsson from yesterday. Chris Johnston followed up on his weekend report claiming the Edmonton Oilers and San Jose Sharks were in discussions about Sharks defenseman Erik Karlsson. He said the two clubs are at least exploring the financial aspects of making such a deal. Karlsson's 11.5 AAV makes it difficult to pull off. Then you go over onto Sportsnet and you read what Elliotte Friedman had to say. He believes the Oilers are listening to franchise stars Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl as they've expressed their preference in landing a puck-moving blue liner. Karlsson has a full no-movement clause. He said he is not thinking about waiving it unless he's presented with something. Meanwhile, the Oilers would have to figure out which contracts to move to make room for the Sharks' blue liner before determining what return to send to San Jose. If they move too many players, they risk a shortened bench in a capped-out season or upsetting the team chemistry. Defenseman Tyson Barrie seems like an obvious cost-cutting trade candidate. However, Friedman said if the Oilers are going to move him, it had better be for a good reason, given his value this season to their blue line. They really feel Barrie has become a big part of their framework internally, and they can't be all willy-nilly about moving him. Now, firstly, let's just go out there and acknowledge the crazy idea that is having a power play that consists of McDavid, Draisaitl, let's just say Evander Kane, Barrie, and Karlsson. Now, of course, you could say, all right, well, why would you have Barrie and Karlsson on the same power play? They're both right-handed defensemen. Why not just move them to different units? Okay, fair. We could do that. Let's have ourselves McDavid, Draisaitl. How about Evander Kane, Erik Karlsson, and then maybe Hyman for the net front? How does that sound? Sounds pretty dangerous, doesn't it? And that's sort of what I'm thinking about when I think about the idea of the Oilers acquiring Erik Karlsson, because of course it would be expensive. Of course, there would be a lot of moving pieces around that in order to make a trade like that work, but the end result is a 100-point caliber defenseman playing with McDavid and Draisaitl. You saw what they did at the All-Star game. Erik Karlsson was kind of afraid to shoot. He was just kind of, okay, I'm going to give it to McDavid and Draisaitl the whole time. And then when he did decide to shoot, hey, he scored a goal. Very beautiful, snipe in tight after an extended possession time. Like, Karlsson is so good, and adding on what could be a talent skill set that dominates the blue line to a forward core that's already one of the best in the NHL, at least up front it is, sounds amazing. Although I do personally question the sort of roles as to how things would manifest itself, because of course we talked about that All-Star game where Karlsson was just feeding it to McDavid and Draisaitl left and right. He was kind of, dare I say, scared to make a play. Of course it's the All-Star game, so not really too many people are going to be going out there and trying all too much, but I do sort of feel that if Karlsson and McDavid and Draisaitl are on the same power play, for example, does Karlsson maybe take a back seat in order to give the puck, quote-unquote, to McDavid and Draisaitl? We saw sort of a similar thing happen when Brent Burns was in San Jose, how Karlsson and Burns were kind of afraid to step on each other's toes, and as a result, they might have overpassed it to each other a little bit too much. Now that Karlsson is just the main guy by himself, he's holding onto the puck a lot more. He's making a lot more fancier dangles. He's taking shots now. He's making long-range bombs that are going right by goalies. He's taking long lobs as well that are going up and over everybody's head only to pop into the net. Karlsson is playing some sort of an unhinged, just give the puck to me and I'm going to be able to do whatever I want with it because I'm Erik freaking Karlsson type of play style. And a part of me is wondering if he's playing with McDavid and Draisaitl, does he kind of sacrifice that a little bit in the same way he did when Burns was in San Jose? I don't know, that's just food for thought, and a concern that I don't really know if it's really worth bringing up, but I guess I did anyway, so you can let me know in the comments all your opinions about that. But if you go over on the Spectres Hockey from earlier today, we have ourselves an update from Erik Karlsson again. It's on The Athletic, it's Pierre LeBrun, his rumblings, Oilers trade options on defense, Karlsson, Gavrikov, and more. The Athletic is paid for material, and this article was published yesterday, but Spectres goes out there and summarizes the parts that we care about for this video in a free and non-subscription-based manner. Pierre LeBrun believes the Edmonton Oilers are keeping tabs on San Jose Sharks defenseman Erik Karlsson. However, he considers the financial hurdles too overwhelming to clear. The Sharks would have to retain a sizable chunk to make him more palatable for the Oilers. LeBrun acknowledged the possibility of a 3-team deal to spread Karlsson's cap hit around and make him more affordable for the Oilers. However, he doubted the third-party brokering the deal would want to have any portion of Karlsson's cap hit on their books as dead cap through 2027. And that's sort of the thing, right? The NHL is such a capped-out world at the moment that you really have to make sure that all the dollars you have are being used and are being used properly. So, for a guy like Erik Karlsson, in order to facilitate a 3-team trade, some team is going to have to bite the bullet and take on, let's say, 50% of that salary, or not even 50% of that salary, but like maybe 25% of that salary until 2027. And 25% of 11.5 is still roughly $3 million. That's a lot of freaking money right there. And furthermore, would the Sharks want to go out there and retain a significant amount too? We had seen trade rumors popping up for this guy ever since he became good again, and ever since the beginning, it's kind of like, okay, would the Sharks be willing to hold on to, what's 11.5 divided by 2? 5.75? Would they be willing to hold on to that much money till 2027 just to get rid of this guy? I mean, at that point, it's sort of like, why would you want to leave him out? He's getting 100 points a year, or he's scoring at a 100-point pace this season, excuse me. But for Erik Karlsson, he's so talented that just keeping him around wouldn't necessarily be the worst move in the world, in my opinion, either, if you really wanted to go that route, but that's kind of just me. So you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the Oilers listening to the Karlsson conversations, how McDavid and Draisaitl have wanted a puck-moving defenseman, whether or not Karlsson is the right guy. If you're a Sharks fan, what do you want from the Oilers to make a trade like this happen? If you're an Oilers fan, what is the most you'd be willing to give up? Because not only is he a good player, but he's also really expensive, so that kind of balances itself out, I feel, in the trade conversations, or at least it should, in theory. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Juraj rolls 99, and bye.